Welcome to my video. Right, today I'm going to give you the top tips on how best to prepare for that PET exam. Pass that exam with flying colours. So, let's kick it off, shall we? Number one tip, really obvious, man. Do your grammar work. You need to get all of the B1 grammar work down. So, I would recommend that you sign up for classes, you get yourself a book which includes all the B1 grammar. We've got some examples on the screen, and really familiarise yourself with all of the grammar points of B1. If you're going to do the exam, you need to know all of it to guarantee, and I mean guarantee, that you pass, that you spend that money and you get that pass and you don't waste that money. This tip goes with getting the B1 grammar down. You also need the B1 vocabulary down. So all of the B1 language, the different topics that you're going to be using, talking about hobbies, interacting in letters, different areas, maybe like the environment, work. You need to be very familiar with that vocabulary so you can understand it and also use it. Again, make use of books and sign up for classes if you need help. If you need a bit of an extra push or you're not exactly sure where to start. But any good B1 book will cover all the vocab you need. You can see a few examples on the screen here. My second tip is to really get familiar with the exam format. Now, that includes the reading, the listening, the writing, and of course the speaking. When you're very confident that you've got the B1 grammar down and the vocabulary, you can start practicing for the exams. Now, you can practice the reading and the writing on your own at home, and also the listening too. Speaking, you really need someone to practice with or an environment where you can practice. It can be a good idea to sign up for some classes to practice those areas. And if you're having trouble with the exam, whether it's the reading, the writing, the listening, and you need a bit of an extra push, definitely sign up to get some help from an expert teacher. Yeah, I'm a PET examiner, and often I get students who they're making a few mistakes or they're studying in a way that's not the best way for them to get their result that they need, and I give them a few little tips, a bit of a push, and that can help them. So, in summary, get your grammar down, then start practicing the different aspects of the exam. Sign up for classes if you need it, and especially with the speaking, you need to be practicing with someone because the exam is interactive. You're talking to the examiner, but you're also talking to your partner too. If you're lucky enough to have the time and the money, there's no better way to improve at a language than actually spend time in that country. So if you can, go to an English-speaking country and make sure that you take time to interact in English. Find some friends, join a club, sign up for language classes, immerse yourself in the language. Obviously, this is not viable for everybody. It requires money and time and commitment to go to another country. But this will really speed things up. You're going to see signs. Your day-to-day life is all going to be in English. So every day you're learning. And if you really go for it, really make an effort to immerse yourself in the language, you will make rapid progress. On the other hand, I've got people, friends that I know who've gone to a foreign country and they've spent time hanging around with people from their own country, speaking their own language, and that really slows everything down and defeats the object. So if you're going to go to an English-speaking country to help develop your English, you've got to go for it 100%. And take every opportunity that you can to learn English. Now, in terms of speaking, the obvious choice to practice speaking is classes, where you've got a teacher who's going through the exam format, and you maybe have other colleagues, other classmates you can practice with. But you don't always have to be paying for your speaking practice. You can do a language exchange. Now, I'll just give you an example of the type of language exchange that you want to avoid. Yeah, take a look at this. ¿Qué pasa, picha? Encantado. ¿Qué te parece si vamos a echar unos traguitos en el bar, eh? You what? Now that happened to me when I first came to Spain. And I've been told by friends, colleagues, of similar situations when they went to England and they wanted to learn English. Here's an example of what happened to one of my friends. Hello, geezer. Lovely to meet you, bruv. Tell you what, let's go and have a mooch about town. We'll have a right old bubble, won't we, son? All right? Is that all right for you, son? Yeah? It's fairly obvious that you want to avoid a language exchange with someone who has got a superior level from you and doesn't understand your needs. With a language exchange, you want to do your exchange with somebody who has an understanding of your needs. They know when they need to speak a bit more slowly. They maybe need to lower the level a little bit of their language so that you understand. And you, to help your partner, you're going to do the same. So my recommendation for when you're choosing a language exchange student is to go for someone who has an understanding of language learning, who understands your goals. And of course, go for someone who's got similar interests to you. You're not going to have an enjoyable experience in a language exchange with someone you have zero in common with. On the other hand, you can be very exam-based and choose a student who's studying for a similar exam for you and really focus your language exchange on exam practice and exam topics. Yeah, you might be doing the PET exam in English and your exchange student might be doing the equivalent in Spanish, and you say, okay, let's do half an hour in English and half an hour in Spanish, and we'll focus very much on the exam format. Now that's a very efficient way to do it, and of course it's free. You could be doing the same thing in class and paying for it. So if you choose the right exchange student and you're both committed, this can be a really beneficial experience. Now, you'll often hear people say, oh, you can best learn the language by having a boyfriend or a girlfriend who speaks the language that you want to learn. Okay. I'm not exactly a ladies' man, so this is not something that I could just do. I'm married now, but it's not always easy just to find a romantic partner, you know, at the click of a finger. If you can do that, then I take my hat off to you. But it doesn't have to be a romantic partner. Just find a friend. Find someone you've got something in common with, who's got an interest in languages, who's going to help you out and you can help them out, and you get to that relationship where you're developing each other's language. Okay, you know, and if it turns into a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a partner, great, you know, but that doesn't have to be your objective. Yeah, we live in the age of globalization, the internet, social media, streaming. We've got lots of options, and I would say, as something that can help you day to day without a lot of effort, try to consume your interests in English. So if you're going to watch Netflix, a series, instead of watching it dubbed, put it in English. Use subtitles in your own language if you need. Consider turning your phone into English. When you're having your coffee in the morning and you're reading the newspaper, you know, on your phone or whatever, why not change that to an English news site? Well, you know, British Council gives a kind of a more simplified news. So does BBC English. So take every little opportunity to consume English, even if it's in your free time when you're relaxing. Yeah, put your series in English, put your news in English, turn your phone into English, change your computer into English, and you're going to get little by little more vocabulary. And this is a kind of an easy way, a free way, yeah, to develop and build up your vocabulary. Yeah. My final tip would be that once you've done your practice, you've got your B1 grammar, your B1 vocab, you're doing your exams, you've got a good understanding of exam practice, make sure that you're hitting 80% in the exam, because if you're going to pay, you want to pass. Now, more or less, the pass mark is 70% for the PET exam overall, more or less. Yeah, so you don't want to have a bad day, you know, and get 68 and fail, you know, by that much. All right, you want to be confident going in there with a very good B1 level, so you go out, you get the exam, and you can start moving up to B2. In terms of B1 vocabulary, you need vocabulary to describe day-to-day situations and topics, and also to a certain extent broader current affairs. If you have basic vocabulary for those, that will help you. So day-to-day topics, talking about work, what you do in your job. I'm in charge of 10 people. I'm responsible for a team of 5 people. I manage, I evaluate, I look, I check. If you're in school, I study, I revise, I go to lessons, I take exams, I've failed, I've passed. That kind of language for your day-to-day. To a lesser extent, you're going to need language to talk about topics in society, the environment, eco-friendly, green, public transport, use a bicycle, bicycle lanes, current affairs, things which are going on nowadays, interesting news, that kind of thing. And also, of course, you're going to need language to describe hobbies and interests. I'm interested in, I'm passionate about, I love. Also, thinking about descriptive language, how to describe your feelings, how to describe situations. I would say these are really essential. I've talked about these in previous classes. You know, a range of adjectives like amazing, incredible, exciting. On the other hand, negative adjectives, boring, tiring, exhausting even, which is more B2. So that's the kind of language you're going to need to get by in the exam, both to be able to produce it and to recognize it as well when you're reading and listening. The speaking exam has a very specific format, and you can really train for it by increasing your vocabulary of certain functions. So I talked already about grammar for speculating, may, might, could, and would. Vocabulary to express your opinion, I think, in my opinion, from my point of view, that's all very useful because you get to use that. Vocab to ask your partner's opinion, what do you think? What do you reckon? What's your point of view? Vocabulary to describe pictures is really important. You know, in the foreground, in the background, on the right, on the left, in the corner, at the top, at the bottom. And a range of verbs that describe the kind of actions you're going to see in pictures as well. Looking at, listening, speaking, holding, concentrating on, smiling, frowning, that kind of thing is really useful. Standing as well, wearing, yeah, this kind of language is absolutely essential. So that's a rundown of some language that I think is really important for the B1 exam, but as we've said, you'll find an extensive list in any good B1 book that covers the grammar and the vocab. But those are my tips, and do take time to focus on the kind of vocabulary that you're going to use in the exam as well. Now, if you stay with me, as I said, at the end, I'll give you a few tips specifically for the kind of vocab and grammar that you're going to use in the writing. Now, I said that if you stuck with me, I'd give you some vocab and grammar to help you with the writing. The writing tends to have the same format and it needs the same type of language. So if you look at one past exam and another one, you're going to see that you're going to be using the same kind of language. So beginning with vocabulary and beginning with the beginning, there's certain phrases that you can use with nearly every letter. You start a letter, you say, you know, hello John, hi Mary, hey Dan. And then you've got phrases like long time no see. Lovely fixed expression that. Yeah. It's great to hear from you. It's great to have news from you. We haven't spoken for ages. Those are kind of fixed expressions that I recommend that you learn, and you can usually use them in the writing. That's to start. To finish, let me know what you think. Looking forward to hearing from you. Give my love to Mary or Jane or Dan. Let me know what you think. Talk soon. Take care. These are these are nice phrases you can finish and wrap up a letter with. Now, in terms of grammar, you often have to make suggestions or recommendations. So I would give you my 3 recommendations for making these suggestions, recommendations, which are going to look good. I mentioned the second conditional earlier. Now we can use the second conditional to give advice. If I were you, I would, plus infinitive. So let's take an example. You have to suggest an activity that everyone wants to do. If I were you, I would choose football as an activity because everybody in class loves this sport. Yeah? Or let's say that you have to choose an activity for people to do if the weather is raining. If I were you, I would rent a movie so that we can put it on the TV if it rains. Yeah? Another phrase, or 2 other verbs basically that we can use, are suggest and recommend. Now suggest and recommend can both be followed by the ing form with no object. So I suggest watching a movie. Not I suggest you watching a movie, I suggest watching a movie. And the same, I recommend watching a movie. If you want to use an object, you can say I suggest that you watch a movie. I suggest that plus object. Or I recommend that you watch a movie. So those 3 phrases are my recommendations for giving suggestions and making recommendations. If I were you, I would, plus infinitive. I suggest or I recommend plus the ing form. Or I suggest that plus object plus infinitive to give you recommendations. And that's my little bonus tip for the writing. Okay? So I hope that was useful for you guys. Those are my tips. If you take all these on board, I've no doubt that you will get much closer to getting that PET exam, moving into the B2 world. Yeah, so all the best, guys. Take this stuff on board, and I'll talk to you soon. Yeah.